In 1984, the National Press Foundation established an Editor of the Year award to recognize an editor's vision, skill, ethics, and motivational abilities. In 2005, we named that award for Ben Bradlee, the former executive editor of the Washington Post. Ben couldn't be here tonight, and we're particularly sorry about that because we know he would really enjoy presenting this award to the man who succeeded him at the Washington Post, Leonard Downie. During Len's tenure from 1991 to 2008, the Post's news staff won 25 Pulitzer Prizes. We're told by the Posties that he is the kind of editor who could shout to the newsroom, "That's a great sentence," and also steer the kind of reporting that we honored last year at this dinner, which inspired a congressional investigation and then changes on the shocking conditions for our soldiers at Walter Reed Army Hospital. Len?
I guess with Robert and Charlie here, the president finally took a night off today. I want to thank the board of the National Press Foundation for selecting me for this wonderful award, named in honor of Ben, my friend, my mentor, my close colleague for so many years. During his 23 years as executive editor of the Washington Post, Ben transformed our newsroom, our newspaper, and much of American journalism. I would hesitate to say that Ben's been my personal role model because his charisma and leadership style simply cannot be copied, and his language should not be. But there's a lot about Ben's approach to running a newsroom that I tried to emulate. Hire the smartest and most talented people, he told me, and enable them to do their best work. All of those hundreds of people in the Washington Post newsroom, the years that I've been executive editor, including Phil Bennett, my most recent managing editor who's here tonight, are the ones who made this award possible. Protect the newsroom's independence and integrity, which Ben did fiercely. Encourage aggressive and enterprising reporting and great writing. And hold those with power accountable for how they use it. Or as Ben might say, don't let the bastards get away with it. It was really easy for me to follow Ben's most important advice, though, which was to choose the right owner. Throughout my 44 years at the Washington Post, journalistic credibility and public service supported by a strong business has always been the mission of the Graham family. Of course, the business part has become somewhat more difficult in recent years, as is elsewhere in the news media. But the Graham family's far-sighted investments in internet ventures and the diversification of the Washington Post Company has put it in a better position than most for the big challenges ahead. I was fortunate that the arc of my newspaper career coincided with a golden age for printed American newspapers, an era that is rapidly coming to a close. The new era of multi-platform, multimedia journalism requires new audience and business models, new newsroom structures, and new forms of journalism. This may prove to be an insurmountable challenge for some newspapers. There may well be major cities very soon without print newspapers. A few newspapers have already given up print and moved entirely to the web. In recent months, the newsrooms of most American newspapers have been significantly reduced in size, some by as much as half or more. Most of the greedy newspaper chains are now on the ropes or have disappeared altogether, but even the best newspaper owners, dedicated to public service journalism, are struggling to stay afloat in a rapidly churning media waters. I still believe that some American newspaper newsrooms and their print newspapers will survive in some form, each tailored to its own audience and mission, but on multiple platforms. The big question is whether they'll be able to retain sufficient capability to produce original journalism that matters, including, most importantly, accountability journalism. There are owners, publishers, and editors working hard to do that right now by sharing content with one another, trying new forms of digital journalism, and experimenting with new business models. Experiments are also being tried outside the traditional media. Universities, foundations, and philanthropists are funding nonprofit experiments in investigative reporting, healthcare coverage, and international journalism. These experimental nonprofit news organizations are being staffed with experienced journalists, often who had left their newspapers, and they are partnering with newspapers and radio and television outlets to publish and broadcast the journalism they produce. Veteran journalists, entrepreneurs, and bloggers are launching independent local news websites in cities across the country. Along with the millions of individual bloggers on the web who both link to stories from the traditional media and offer their own tidbits of information and opinions, it feels a bit like going back to the distant past, when American journalism came in many different shapes and sizes and degrees of reliability, and its ownership was fragmented. All this is happening at a time when, ironically, modern so-called mainstream journalism, which has been dependent on well-staffed newspaper newsrooms, has been more professional and reliable than ever before. The highest traffic news sites on the web are those of traditional media, making their total audiences larger than ever. Since I failed miserably in the past to anticipate how rapidly and profoundly the internet would impact the news media, I will make no further predictions about the future of the news media tonight. The only certainty is there will be more rapid and unpredictable change. I'll be spending my time now with academic partners trying to assess and influence that change, because I still believe strongly in the importance of journalism that matters in our democracy. And that's why I feel so honored to win the Ben Bradlee Award. Thank you.